Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And I'm joined today by Liz. Liz, can you please introduce yourself and share a little bit about what you do?
Sure, Dr. Gleb. Liz Heitner. I am the CHRO for Penn Mutual Life Insurance Company.
And let's talk about distributed work at Penn Mutual. So tell me a
Sure.
little bit about, yeah, tell me a little bit about what the setup is, and then we'll talk about the benefits of what your setup is.
Sure, absolutely. So, Penn Mutual, we are a fully flexible remote organization at this point with no intention of going back. During the pandemic, we had incredible results, coupled with our culture really seemed to sustain throughout the transition to remote. So, we never forced people back into the office, and
Mhm.
instead, we leaned into really supporting people to work their best from wherever they work in the lower 48 United States.
That's a great message. But tell me a little bit about more concretely about the benefits, let's say the three biggest benefits that you found of offering such flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing that was really interesting, we saw a huge improvement in productivity. We'd made some smart investments prior to the pandemic in technology. We have
Hmm.
a very collaborative culture. And I think what we actually saw and recognized is people leaned into that collaborative culture to embrace the technology and even work smarter and more efficiently than they had before, coupled with there were some good things happening in the insurance industry. I think
Hmm.
the other piece of this was we asked our employees what they wanted. We got their input.
Hmm.
And, at a time where I know organizations were thinking about forcing people back into the office and social distancing, we just
Hmm.
said, we're not going to do that. We don't need to do that. This is really working for us right now. We want to support your well being, your safety.
Hmm.
And that culturally really resonated with folks. We saw great engagement scores through, we work with great places to work. We got a lot of feedback from our folks throughout the process, and I think that really built trust. And lastly, we're able to attract talent, top
Hmm.
talent from across the states, across the nation. We've been able to retain our wonderful people. And I would say we did not participate in the great resignation or see some of the
Yeah.
compensation pressures that other organizations were experiencing. So, from an overall talent strategy standpoint, it's been really phenomenal for us in our organization.
And I bet you'll have even more benefits now that some more companies are deciding that they want to spend folks to spend more time in the office, ranging from the federal government to Amazon and other companies and some insurance companies as well.
Absolutely. We're a bit of an outlier in the insurance industry, and we're
Mhm.
very clear to candidates what it's like working at Penn Mutual. This is not a place for someone who I think is desiring that in office experience,
Mhm.
but for candidates and people who enjoy working this way, enjoy working remotely, and, like many of the other aspects of Penn Mutual's culture that we share so they know what they're getting into. It's really a wonderful thing, and we're
Mhm.
finding ourselves having more candidates applying for jobs than we, know what to do with. So it's been just phenomenal for us.
That's awesome. And Nationwide Insurance is also, I worked with Nationwide on this topic on flexible work, and they're also in the same bucket that they're having a lot of these benefits, but they're also having some challenges. So I'm curious, what are the, let's say, the three biggest challenges that you are finding with a flexible work arrangement?
Yeah, I would say there, I wouldn't say that we're experiencing what I would call challenges right
Hmm.
now because we've been doing this for 5 years.
Nice.
But what I will share is we recently decommissioned a building that was our former headquarters.
Hmm.
And grief and, people look back at that building fondly, had great
Hmm.
experiences there. Many of our employees that
Hmm.
were there in pre-pandemic, and so it's creating space for people to deal with the change and
Hmm.
recognize that grief is not linear and not
Hmm.
everyone, was prepared, I think, for the fact that we actually were no longer going to be using that building and having our logo
Hmm.
on it going forward. So creating space for some of those conversations and
Mhm.
for people to understand, express grief about, a place that they were very
Mhm.
fond of, but also pull them forward and remind them that our relationships, our connections, those were not about a building. And that's not,
Mhm.
and Penn Mutual is bigger than, that former space. And it's
Sure.
really all, incumbent upon us and the exciting opportunity we have to propel the culture forward. The
Mhm.
other piece I will say is at the same time, we've had tremendous success just coming off of another record setting year, making sure we're really clear on where we're setting the bar from a performance
Mhm.
expectation standpoint. With great
Mhm.
flexibility comes freedom, comes responsibility. So
Yeah.
making sure that we really did a great job setting goals, making sure
Mhm.
people know what they should be working on, as well as being clear around what are not priorities in this environment.
Mhm.
What work should we be, sunsetting because we've adopted
Mhm.
new processes, new technologies, there's other priorities. So having a lot of thoughtful conversation around goal setting. And then on
Mhm.
the other side of that, how did we do? What ways could we have delivered a project better? Was it on time? Was
Mhm.
it on budget? Was it on spec? Were there things that we could have done to work together in a more effective, more collaborative way that's consistent with our culture?
Mhm.
Spending time reflecting on how we can work smarter, work better together, I think is something that maybe hadn't been a muscle before we embraced remote work, but
Mhm.
something we really dove in on. And then the last area, which is a common one, really driving adoption of technology and
Mhm.
ensuring that our leaders who are really, the importance of these leaders in a remote environment is huge. They're
Yeah.
communicating, they're connecting, they're leading with intention. And we're really driving that adoption around the robust technology solutions that we have to
Mhm.
support communication, collaboration, team effectiveness, and the like.
Let's talk a little bit about those leaders. So one of the challenges that I've seen with a lot of companies that have flexibility is that managers don't know how to manage effectively in a remote setting. And it sounds like that's something you've been working on a lot. And this
Absolutely.
is definitely an area of challenge. Many companies just aren't sure even what kind of guidance to provide their managers. One of the reasons that they want to go back to the office is because they don't know how to work effectively in a flexible setting. So what have you been doing more concretely to help your managers know how to manage effectively in a flexible setting?
Yes, we've done extensive training. We actually
Mhm.
formed a program designed to leading in a remote hybrid environment called Lead Stronger. And what we
Mhm.
realized were there were some fundamentals. And leading in a remote environment, it doesn't happen by accident. You need to have structure, you need to have
Yeah.
intentionality. You really need to create space to listen and not just to talk at people. And I think that's a
Mhm.
tendency too that perhaps some managers realize, wow, I need to be very methodical and planful in
Mhm.
terms of how
Mhm.
I'm structuring my team meetings, my one on ones, my skip levels. And so we provided frameworks and guidance, as well as said, as a leader, this is the expectation for you to. And then on the flip side, we've done a lot through measuring that again with some of our partnerships with great places to work and
Mhm.
other feedback tools that we leverage to ensure that, is what we're doing working?
Mhm.
And we give our managers coaches as well as invest in them by giving them development and really,
Mhm.
again, I think setting, it's not just enough to get the work done. We're really expecting our leaders to
Mhm.
lean in and use those skills that we've been, teaching them and cultivating in them to really drive a connected experience and collaboration across their teams. And there's always lessons learned and there's
Sure.
always opportunities for us to do more. But I would say again, I think we were very lucky in kind of the leadership culture we had going into this
Mhm.
that we really just, we've got some great leaders here and they care about people. And I think when you have great leaders that care about their people
Mhm.
truly, there's a willingness to adapt new skills, to adopt new skills,
Mhm.
to adapt to this environment. And so we're really thrilled in terms of how that's evolving. And we held our first ever leadership summit as well to really focus on leading in this environment and focus on the
Hmm.
goal setting and the prioritization. And we're thrilled to again host that event for our leaders to really invest in them and help them
Hmm.
improve their skills.
That's incredibly important. Now, I talked about leaders, and
Yeah.
you're saying that you have a lot of new hires. A number of companies find that it's challenging to really integrate new hires into their culture, whether through onboarding process or through the first several years of these new staff and getting them into the culture and the same ramp up as staff who started working in the office. What have you done to help those new hires succeed? And what have you found to
Sure.
be effective?
So new hire satisfaction is definitely a metric we look at and track. We had to revamp completely our onboarding experience. And it's something
Hmm.
that we're continuing to improve and evolve. We just implemented Workday. That's been very, very helpful. But really thinking of it as a team sport with managers, with the new team members where a new person is joining. And we look at each team and each of these hires in a
Hmm.
unique way. And there's a lot of time, attention, and care put into ensuring that someone who has taken a chance on joining us has left typically another opportunity to join us. And so, again, I will say the leadership that we have is very invested in that success, and we
Hmm.
measure how it's going. And so, fortunately, we haven't lost very many new hires that have joined our organization, and retention is incredibly high. But you really do need to have to reconceptualize your onboarding experience and think about how you can create those networks. You can educate people on the culture, on our business priorities, all of these things throughout their first few months. And we do some fun things to recognize some of these milestones as they're working through their first 30, 60, and 90 days with our
Hmm.
organization to make it fun and make them feel a part of things. And so, very proud again of our successes in this area. We've seen, when you look at whether it's early career people that we have coming out of our
Hmm.
co-ops or more experienced hires, we're actually getting great feedback, and we continue to add to that process and ask for feedback from them on how we can improve. What have they seen would be
Hmm.
more effective? And so I would say, again, that's an area that we actually made a lot of investment in and has really been helpful for us as an organization and our continued success.
That sounds very, very important and impressive. Now, as we finish up, what do you think will be the future of flexible work going forward?
Well, I mean, we're at an interesting time with some
Hmm.
of these return to office mandates. And, I would never presume that that remote work and distributed work is right for every organization.
Hmm.
I would say it probably isn't. It definitely isn't. But it was really right for us. And I think
Hmm.
organizations that are taking a long-term view, that we did not have buildings that we had significant investment in that
Hmm.
were sitting largely empty. We had a lot of the preconditions for this to be successful. So what I would say is, if you're a newer company and you're thinking, gosh, are we committed to this path? Go for it, because you're going to find great talent. You're going to find people who want to work the way um, in a remote distributed environment and have been successful in that.
Hmm.
And you're going to find that, if you spend some time reflecting, getting the feedback, continuously improving and doing the work, you can make it work. But what I'll also say is that I think, we're at a very interesting kind of intersection with AI, some of the other technological
Hmm.
advances. It's really incumbent that we embrace this technology, because I think that's going to be a
Hmm.
real disruptor across a number of
Sure.
industries. So, coming off the heels of a lot of our collaborative culture fueled adoption, a lot of the collaborative technologies that we embraced over this period of time, and we're really working very differently than we were in the office. We are trying to really lean into some of these other technologies and tools and ways of working more effectively. We're implementing in Microsoft 365, which I know many organizations have, and adopting some of the
Mhm.
collaboration and share tools. So whether it's AI, it's embracing these new ways of asynchronous collaboration and doing things in an even different way, cultivating that growth mindset, that adaptive orientation,
Mhm.
and nurturing excitement around thinking of ways of being even more productive and effective. I
Yeah.
think organizations that don't embrace some of these opportunities and tools, that's where I think you're going to see, a further divide occur.
Mhm.
Whether you're in a distributed workplace and work environment or not.
Well, that's a great message to leave the audience with. Thank you very much, Liz. Your expertise was very, very helpful.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on, Dr. Gleb. I enjoy it. It's a topic we are very passionate about, and I really appreciate you asking me to join you today.
And thank you to the audience for checking out another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you checked out the show and leave a review. It helps others discover the show and helps us improve the show.